It's crazy how this kind of stuff keeps coming out of that agency. Every time you think you've seen it all, something new drops. How bad can it actually get for Nick Smith and for him to still be in office? That's the part that blows my mind. The list of scandals, bad hires, and flat out reckless decisions just keep stacking up. And now, well, we've got the story of Deputy Greenspan. If you're local, you probably saw the big announcement on September 17th, 2025. Nick Smith stood up with all the usual ceremony and declared that Greenspan would be the new school resource officer at Cordova High School. He framed it like a passing of the torch. Jason Harris stepping up as Cordova's new police chief, and Greenspan stepping in to watch over the kids. On the surface, sounds fine, right? Just another SRO assignment, because we know Nick Smith hasn't had issues with those. But once you dig into Greenspan, it starts to feel a little less like protection and more like desperation. So let's go over Deputy Greenspan's timeline. Now, Greenspan started out straight and narrow. He was hired by the University of Alabama Police Department, one of the best agencies in the state by far, hands down. Fresh career, bright future. On April 18th, 2024, he graduated from A-Post, the police academy. Less than 7 months later, October 29th, 2024, he's in handcuffs. Less than a year in law enforcement, he shows he does not make good decisions at all. In fact, he makes horrible, terrible decisions that could cost people their lives. He was arrested for DUI by Tuscaloosa County deputies. His BAC, 0.17. The legal limit in Alabama is 0.008. That's over twice the legal limit. That means he was not tipsy, as you would say. He was drunk completely. So let's pause there for a second. As I said, this isn't just one beer too many. This is a serious impairment. That's the kind of number where wrecks happen and people do not live through. But instead of a career-ending charge, Greenspan lands in the great second chance program. I don't have anything against the second chance program, so don't get me wrong. For most people, anyway. On March 12th, 2025, he enters the program. By July 24th, 2025, he's completed it, and the DUI is dismissed. Again, programs are there for reasons. I don't have an issue with them. But you would think maybe, just maybe, after barely escaping those consequences, those serious consequences, he would take some time, maybe think about another career, because I'm telling you right now, career is not for him. But nope. Almost immediately, Sheriff Nick Smith picks him up. Cool, of course. Pins a star on his chest and sends him out to serve again. And not just anywhere, puts him in the schools around your kids. Now, why does that matter? Let me ask you this. What kind of message does that send to students, to parents, to the community? We're supposed to tell our kids not to drink and drive, yet the guy enforcing the rules inside their hallways is the same guy who was caught drunk behind the wheel less than a year ago and less than a year into his law enforcement career. Now, I understand there's a lot of people that have driven intoxicated. That does not make it right. It's one of my biggest pet peeves. That is one thing. Now, I'm far from perfect. That is one thing you will never hear about me. You can ask anyone that's ever known me. I have never in my life, after I've drank one drink, driven a vehicle. Never once. Always been a pet peeve of mine. Now, law enforcement officers, I've had friends in law enforcement that this has happened to. Not this exact situation, but they were arrested for DUI. They were never convicted. There was not much evidence against them. They were not convicted. Not that they went through the second chance program. I don't know anyone that admitted guilt, entered into a second chance program for a DUI, got through that program, and then was hired back as a law enforcement officer. Not saying it's not happened. I don't know anybody. The people I know that have gone through that, they were never convicted. The case was eventually dropped because there was not enough evidence. But again, they immediately lost their badge. They had to go do something else for quite a while to prove themselves, as they should have. They proved themselves, and later, they got their badges back. I don't have an issue with that. It raises the bigger question. Why does Nick Smith keep hiring people with all this baggage? Why does he keep making appointments that seem more like about filling spots because he made all these promises during campaigning? So he's filling these spots quickly rather than focusing on actually protecting the public and protecting the children, because that's what's going on here. He made these big promises while campaigning every time, and now he's just sticking people in those spots to fill those spots so he can say he followed through on his promise. He had school resource officers last year that ended up not being certified. They had never been through a post academy. They were not certified to be law enforcement officers, sworn law enforcement officers in the state of Alabama. And he put them in the schools. As I've said before, the liability behind that is unbelievable. But we know Nick Smith does not care about liability. How many times has that county been sued since Nick Smith has been in office, and they've had to settle some very large settlements? A lot of them. We know of at least 3 big ones. There are more, but we know of at least 3 big ones. How much money Nick Smith has cost is unbelievable because of his decision making. But this isn't just me talking. And someone under the pen name Silence Do Good, which if you don't follow them, please do. It's a solid page. It's very informational and funny at the same time, and that's hard to do. But this person does it, and they wrote a story up on this, and in almost biblical tone. Here's a quote from them from that article. On the 17th day of September, in the year of our Lord 2025, Sheriff Nicholas Smith did make great ceremony in naming the new guardian of Cordova schools. Yet, methinks this appointment smelleth more of desperation than discernment. Again, that is absolutely true. Everything he said, very funny as well. You have to make light of some of this. If you don't, we all are going to lose our minds. That's how bad this is. We have to make light of it sometimes. Even though in normal circumstances, none of us would be making light of any of this because it is very serious stuff. We are talking about protection of our children. We know who one of the other school resource officers is, J.J. Jackson, the one that we know does not have any weapon discipline at all. Been proven at least twice. And now we have this guy who, I don't know him personally, never met him before in my life, don't know anything about him other than less than 7 months in law enforcement, and he's arrested for a serious DUI. Is that the kind of person we want in law enforcement? No, absolutely not. Is that 100% on Nick Smith? No. I think APOS should step up and start revoking a few more certifications in these cases. Again, less than a year in law enforcement, and you've proven you make horrible decisions. I know some people are going to disagree with me on that. That's my stance. It's the way I feel about it. Here's where I land. If Sheriff Nick Smith is willing to look past something this serious just to get a body in uniform, what does that say about his priorities, about his judgment? Now, contrary to what some of you say, I'm not here to stir up drama. I'm here because accountability matters. Parents need to know who's walking the halls with their children. Wouldn't you agree? Citizens need to know what kind of decisions their sheriff is making. And Walker County deserves better than this endless cycle of questionable hires and broken trust. So when you hear the name Deputy Greenspan announced as Cordova's new SRO, remember the whole story, not just the polished ceremony Nick Smith rolled out. If you think I enjoy doing all of these stories and podcasts on one agency, you are wrong. But I have no choice because, as I've said over and over again, and it truly does not stop, I can have 10 other podcasts planned out, 10 other stories, and then boom, up in one day, 2 really serious things pop back up of something Nick Smith's done. He can't help himself. I mean, it is every day. I do not know when it will stop. And as I said, we can make light of this, but we also need to understand how serious these decisions are and the danger that these decisions put the public in. Something needs and has to be done immediately. I know we have the election coming up in May of 26. So we're less than a year away from that, thankfully. So at worst, we have to vote him out of office then. Have to. That county, I'm not fear-mongering here. I truly cannot imagine where that county would be with 4 more years of him. I truly can't. And I don't think any of you can either.